if you're listening to this, I need you to understand something. I didn't go looking for drama. I didn't want revenge. All I wanted was the truth. But when I finally got it, it came with something else. Her pregnancy. I used to believe that when someone cheats, you just know. The signs, the gut feeling, the red flags waving in your face. But what if the person you're in love with is so good at lying, they convince you you're the problem? My name is Ava, I'm 31, and I work as a clinical researcher in behavioral psychology. Which is ironic, really, because I study patterns of deception, and I still missed the biggest lie of my life. 3 years deep into a relationship. Shared apartment, shared grocery lists, conversations about kids, joint accounts, dog breeds. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were real. Let's just call him Caleb. He's the kind of guy that reads the room too well. Knows exactly when to lean in, when to listen, when to disappear. Worked in marketing, strategy division, said the right things, said them calmly, even when he was lying. The last few months I could feel him drifting. Less present, less affectionate, more late nights at the office and client emergencies. But I chalked it up to pressure, burnout, the usual mid-30s stress. I didn't want to be the paranoid girlfriend, so I trusted him. Until that one night I walked in, and it was all over his face. He didn't jump up, didn't hide anything. Just sat there, elbows on knees, like he'd rehearsed this moment already. "We need to talk," he said. And that was it. No build-up, no preamble, just a simple confession delivered like a business memo. "I messed up," he told me. "It was a one-time thing. I didn't mean for it to happen. It meant nothing." Those 3 words. It meant nothing. I remember standing in the doorway, keys still in my hand, trying to understand if I was awake or watching some bad script play out. I remember how clinical he sounded, how matter-of-fact. He said it happened on a business trip, that he was drunk, that he felt awful the second it was over, that it wasn't emotional, that it wasn't love, that he only told me because he wanted to be honest now. He apologized, he begged, tears, trembling hands, the whole guilt-ridden performance. "I love you," he said. "I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Please, Ava, don't throw it all away over one mistake." And this is the part I hate admitting. I didn't leave. Not right away. I sat down. I asked questions. I let him explain. Because when someone you love looks you in the eye and says, "It was a mistake," you want to believe them. Even when something deep inside you is screaming. I didn't forgive him, but I told him I needed space. He agreed, said he'd wait, said he'd do better, and for a week, I tried to convince myself this was survivable, that we could rebuild, that he really did just make one terrible choice. Until she messaged me. I didn't plan on responding. When the message came in, it was late. 11:43 p.m. No profile photo. Just a name I didn't recognize, and a short sentence. "We need to talk. It's about Caleb." My heart dropped so fast it made my teeth ache. I stared at it for 10 minutes before I opened it. I don't know why I agreed to meet. Curiosity, maybe? Or maybe I already knew. Somewhere deep down, I knew. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. She was already there when I arrived. Dark hair, minimal makeup, calm posture, no chaos, no theatrics. She wasn't what I expected. That almost made it worse. "Thanks for coming," she said. "I wasn't sure if I should reach out, but I couldn't not tell you." I didn't say anything. I just nodded. My throat felt like sandpaper. "I wouldn't have reached out," she said carefully, "but I'm pregnant, and I thought you should know." The words didn't land at first. They just hovered. Pregnant. She didn't flinch when she said it. There was no smugness, no pity, just facts. She even looked uncomfortable. "Wait," I said, finally finding my voice. "You're saying Caleb is the father?" She hesitated, then nodded. "We've been seeing each other for a while. He told me he was getting out of something complicated, that you were on and off." On and off? I couldn't breathe. "He told me it was messy," she added. "But over." Over. The part of my brain that handles words and logic stopped working. Because 2 weeks ago, Caleb was crying in our living room, begging for forgiveness, calling me the love of his life, saying it was one mistake. One mistake. We met 3 years ago at a behavioral psychology summit in Lisbon. I'd just gotten out of a relationship with someone who made me feel invisible. That man wasn't abusive, just absent, cold. I used to explain away his distance as emotional maturity. Caleb was the opposite. He remembered the name of my dog. He asked about my sister. He showed up, at least in the beginning. After Lisbon, we moved fast. He made me feel safe, anchored. And after the last guy, I thought I was finally making the right choice. I'd promised myself, next time, I'll see the red flags. Next time, I'll walk the moment it feels wrong. But Caleb didn't give me flags. He gave me warmth, stability, strategy. Looking back now, it was just good branding. And suddenly, in that cafe, every layer of that illusion peeled back. All I could do was sit there, watching this woman, this other woman, explain my life from the outside, like I was some side character in a show I didn't audition for. "I'm sorry," she said again. "I didn't know about you. I swear." I believed her. That was the worst part. She wasn't the villain in this story. She was just another version of me, another woman who believed him, and now she was pregnant with his child. I walked out of the cafe in silence. Didn't cry, didn't scream, not because I was okay, because I was numb. I thought cheating was the worst part. I didn't realize it was just the beginning. I didn't wait long. The second I got home, I confronted him, straight out, no warning. "She's pregnant, Caleb, and she says it's yours." He blinked. No flinch, no guilt, just a practiced sigh, like he was already exhausted by an argument he hadn't even had yet. "Ava, seriously? You're really going to believe some random woman over me?" I wasn't ready for how calm he was. "She's not random," I snapped. "You slept with her." He shrugged. "Once, and I told you about it. But now she's coming out with this? Come on, Ava, this is textbook manipulation." Then came the real switch. "You're smarter than this. I told you everything, and you're still digging? She's trying to ruin what we have, and you're handing her the shovel." The gaslighting didn't come in flames. It came like fog, slow, suffocating, hard to argue with. "You've always been like this, always assuming the worst, always looking for something to be mad about. Why would you even meet with her?" he added, voice rising now. "Do you want to destroy us that badly?" Suddenly, I was the villain, the paranoid girlfriend, the emotional liability. I didn't even have the words. I just stood there, mouth dry, brain looping his voice in my head like a script I didn't write. I told one friend, just one, and her response felt like a punch in the stomach. "Okay, but if it was just once, and he told you, maybe don't throw away everything over one mistake." That's the part no one prepares you for. When your pain becomes someone else's problem to minimize, they weren't there for the shaking hands, the sleepless nights, the way he made me feel crazy for asking basic questions. But still, I started to fold. Just a little. I looked at the evidence again, not of his lies, but of my own reaction. Maybe I'd let this go too far. Maybe I was spiraling. Maybe she was lying. Maybe this was my fault for chasing clarity when I already had closure. I hated that he was getting into my head again. But that's what he was best at, rewriting the narrative until even I wasn't sure what had happened. Maybe I overreacted, I thought, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. Maybe I am making it worse. After that night, my brain wouldn't shut off. I started rewinding everything, every conversation, every odd moment I brushed off. And suddenly, it was all there, clear as glass. The late nights that became a pattern. Work's piling up. I'll be home late. Then it turned into disappearing weekends, last-minute client dinner, helping my brother move. No photos, no check-ins, just silence. I remembered a text that came through once while we were watching a movie. His screen lit up with, "Don't forget the wine," followed by a heart emoji. He swiped it away fast. Too fast. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to seem paranoid. Then there was the night he came home smelling like someone else. Not just cologne, perfume, floral, sweet, and not mine. "You're acting weird," I said. He laughed. "You're always in your head. You've been distant lately, you know that?" Just like that, my concerns became his burden. Classic projection. And I ate it up like it was my fault. Even my body had been trying to warn me. Tight chest, constant headaches, stomach in knots before he even walked through the door. But I kept explaining it away. My last relationship ended the same way. Slow gaslighting, distance, tiny betrayals disguised as misunderstandings. He made me think I was too sensitive, too insecure. When I left, I promised myself, next time, I'll listen to my gut. I'll know. But when Caleb came along, he wasn't cold. He was attentive. He didn't ignore me. He studied me. That's what made it worse. He knew exactly how to get around my defenses. He knew what I needed to feel safe, and he used that as cover. I looked back at our anniversary last year. He canceled dinner 2 hours before, said he was sick. But now that I think about it, he didn't sound sick. He sounded tired. Tired like someone juggling 2 lives and hoping neither would crash. Then there was the weekend I asked to come with him on a work retreat. He said, "It's better you don't. It'll be boring. No partners allowed." I believed him. Even now, the memory makes me nauseous. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insecure. I was right. And the more I added it up, the more obvious it became. All the signs were there. I just wanted to believe he was better than this. The breakdown wasn't loud. It didn't come with screaming or throwing things. It came quietly, curled up on the bathroom floor, fully dressed, lights off, phone face down. I didn't cry. I just stopped moving, stopped eating, stopped responding. Something in me cracked, and after it cracked, something else kicked in. Numbness, and right behind it, resolve. I stopped asking Caleb questions, stopped trying to get answers out of a man who used confusion as a defense mechanism. Instead, I started pulling receipts. I opened his old laptop while he was at work. Same password he always used. I wasn't expecting anything blatant, but he'd been sloppy. Social media. A private account he didn't tell me about, followed by a handful of people I didn't recognize. A name stood out. Hers. The woman from the cafe. I clicked. That's when I found it. A thread of messages, not just weeks old, but going back months. One caught my eye. Her. "I miss you." Him. "I love you too." I stared at those words for a long time. They weren't from a one-night mistake. They were from a man who had a second life. And suddenly, everything snapped into focus. I wasn't the woman he cheated with. I was the woman he kept around. The second option, the placeholder, the cover story. I pulled up our shared calendar, matched work trips with her location tags. They aligned. Perfectly. The worst part? He'd started fading out a few months ago. Shorter texts, less sex, more space. He was getting ready to leave me. I could feel it in my bones. And that's when it hit me. He was planning to leave until she got pregnant. That's what changed. That's why he stayed. Not love, not guilt, damage control. He didn't come back to me out of remorse. He came back because his escape route collapsed. I closed the laptop, stood in the silence of our shared apartment, and felt everything inside me freeze over. No more confusion, no more guilt. Just one razor-sharp realization. He didn't stay because of love. He stayed because of responsibility. I needed confirmation, not just evidence, witnesses. So I reached out to someone he never expected. Marcus, his old coworker from his consulting firm. We'd met once at a work function. Casual, harmless, but he remembered me. "Hey," I messaged. "We haven't spoken in a while, but I wanted to ask you something personal about Caleb." He didn't reply immediately, but when he did, it was short. "Let's talk." Off text. We met for coffee. I was nervous. He looked even more uncomfortable. "Look," he started, "I don't want to be in the middle of anything. But if you're asking what I think you're asking..." "Yeah, I knew about her." I blinked. "Wait, you mean the other woman?" He looked down at his coffee, then back at me. He brought her around a few times. said they were seeing each other seriously. I felt something in my chest collapse. I gripped the edge of the table like I might fall off the earth. You mean, while he was with me? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Marcus didn't know I still thought I was the main relationship, that I believed his one mistake story, that I was still sleeping next to him when he was playing house somewhere else. Where did they go? I asked, voice barely there. I don't know everything, Marcus said, but I know he used to disappear some weekends. He always said it was work. But that's when he'd take her to the cottage, near the coast. The cottage. He told me it was under renovation. That's why we never went. She met his friends? I asked. Marcus nodded. Yeah, a couple times. Look, I thought you two were done. I didn't know he was doing both. My stomach turned. Was I ever mentioned? I asked. He hesitated. He just said things had ended, that it got too complicated with you. Complicated? He'd rewritten our relationship like it was some vague, messy chapter he'd outgrown. I was the ex he just hadn't told yet. A ghost in his version of the story. That night, I sat in the dark, staring at the wall. No music, no distractions, just the echo of everything I'd missed. He had a whole life I wasn't part of. Shared beds, introductions, friends who knew her name but not mine. He wasn't hiding an affair. He was hiding me. I wasn't the backup plan. I was the cover story. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. I just sat across from him at our dining table, the same table where we used to have Sunday pancakes and slow morning coffees, and slid the folder across. Open it, I said. Caleb looked down at the manila envelope like it might explode. Then, slow and silent, he peeled it open. The first photo, him and her, walking down Marine Street, his hand in hers. The second, the timestamp from his supposed business trip. Same day, same woman, different town. The third, a screenshot. I love you too, he'd written. To her. He didn't speak, but his face changed. That carefully composed, always in control expression, the one he wore when he was manipulating or negotiating, cracked. You lied, I said, voice calm but shaking underneath. You said it was a mistake. One night. He rubbed his temples, still silent. You introduced her to your friends, I continued. You took her to that cottage by the coast, the one you said was under renovation. I pushed the calendar logs forward, marked dates, check-ins, tags, receipts. I didn't need an apology. I needed acknowledgement. You had a double life, Caleb. I wasn't the secret girlfriend. I was the cover story. Finally, he exhaled, sat back, looked at me like a man drowning. I didn't know what I wanted. That was all he could give me. No remorse, no fight. Just that tired line. You knew enough to play house with her, I said. You knew enough to stay when she got pregnant. You knew exactly what you were doing. He nodded. Slowly, I stood. Get out. No yelling, no crying, just 2 words that meant, you're done here. He didn't argue. He grabbed his keys, slipped on his jacket, walked toward the door, but just as his hand hit the knob, he froze, and then he turned, halfway, not facing me fully, like a man unsure if he should say what was sitting on his chest. There's something else you should know, he said. I didn't answer. I didn't ask. But my heart dropped. You're pregnant too. Silence. He kept going, like he couldn't stop now. I saw the prenatal vitamins. In the cabinet, the nausea in the mornings, the doctor voicemails. I figured it out. My body went numb. He knew. And he said nothing. Worse, he waited. I didn't want to push you, he said. Didn't know if you were going to, keep it. I stared at him, my mouth dry. Words caught in my throat. She didn't know what she wanted either. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to make the wrong call. He hadn't been indecisive. He had been strategic, calculating who would carry his legacy, who would stick around, who he could manage. I sat back down slowly. As he turned and walked out, quiet, cowardly. I didn't stop him, didn't scream, just watched the door close behind him. And then everything went still. My breath shallow, my body light, like grief had emptied me from the inside out. All this time, I thought I was healing from betrayal. But this wasn't just betrayal. This was bondage to someone who didn't love me, but who left a permanent mark anyway. I had dreamed of a child, but not like this. Not born in deception, not tangled in lies before they even took their first breath. I sat in that silence for a long time, long enough for the sun to move, for the light to shift across the walls, for everything to start settling in. He didn't stay because of love. He stayed because of obligation. And now, I was the new obligation. I didn't scream. I didn't post receipts. I didn't call his mother or blast him on social media. I just ended it, quietly. Cut the cord that had tethered me to the worst version of myself, the one that stayed when I should have walked, the one that loved him more than I protected myself. I blocked his number, not out of spite, but survival, because I knew if I let even one message through, I'd spiral again, looking for closure from the same mouth that fed me lies. I packed the last of his things, his hoodie, the charger he always stole from my nightstand, the travel mug I once bought him, and left them at reception. No note, no drama, just done. The apartment felt unfamiliar at first, too quiet, too clean, too mine. But something about that emptiness felt safe, like an open field after a storm. Then came the part no one claps for, rebuilding. I moved into a smaller flat across town. New sheets, new curtains, fresh air that didn't remind me of his cologne. I started therapy, sat across from a woman who didn't flinch when I unraveled, who didn't ask why I stayed, but what staying had taught me. I journaled every morning. I walked aimlessly after dark. I gave myself permission to feel everything, the rage, the regret, the grief, the shame. And slowly, I began to come back to life. People talk about co-parenting like it's some evolved art, like being civil means healing. But I made something clear. We are not friends. We are not partners. We are two people with shared biology and very separate values. I keep it minimal, boundaries like bulletproof glass. He sends updates. I respond when necessary. He asks questions. I keep it business. There's no small talk. No, how have you been? That's a luxury he lost the moment he looked me in the eye and lied. Sometimes I catch myself thinking about her, the woman I used to be, the one who believed love meant fixing someone, who twisted herself into silence so a man wouldn't feel judged, who thought loyalty meant losing herself piece by piece. That version of me, she died in that living room, the night he told me I was pregnant, the night he turned my body into collateral. I'm someone else now. I no longer chase closure. I no longer question my worth based on a man's confusion. I no longer soften when someone weaponizes guilt. I show up for myself now. I protect my peace like a fortress. I love without sacrificing discernment. People still ask why I didn't make it public, why I didn't expose him. Here's why. Because I didn't need to destroy him. I just needed to rebuild me. He'll tell whatever story he needs to sleep at night. But I get to wake up in a life I chose, a life with no secrets, no double meanings, just truth, boundaries, and freedom. He broke me to protect his lies, but I gave birth to the truth. Or maybe, if betrayal made me a mother, then strength raised me from it. Either way, I'm no longer bleeding for a man who wouldn't even wipe his feet before walking into my life. I'm done being a lesson. I've become the author.